Hello friends, welcome back to this new series we have started. I do hope you got a chance to watch the introduction video, so at least you're aware of the purpose and the directions we'll be taking in this new series. This is the New Creation Factualities, Part 1. For new to exist, there's the suggestion that there was an old, and if there's a new creation, then there must have been an old one. Before we can explore the new and fully understand what it entails, we must see what the old creation contained so we can better appreciate the new. This will be the broad focus of this video today. The creation story is a marvel. The Most High God, by and through His Son, spoke things into being, and it happened just as He spoke it. Listen to David explaining how this took place. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and all the host of them by the breath of His mouth. For He spake, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood fast. Perfectly said. Wouldn't you agree? This is the marvelous display of the power and majesty of the Most High God working through His Son. In fact, the book of Colossians gives us the evidence that the Son was indeed the one who did all this creating. For by Him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by Him and for Him. And He is before all things, and by Him all things consist. There you have it. He was the one through whom all of this was done. He did all of this, but it was God working through Him, right? Well, now we have the creation of the earth, and we need to look back at this. The purpose of the creation of the earth was for a new being, and here we see a new species being created called man. We are told that man was given rulership or dominion over the earth. In fact, look at the qualification that was given him by the Creator Himself. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God created man in His own image. In the image of God created He him, male and female created He them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, "Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." A few points to observe carefully here. The term man refers both to male and female, based on what we just read. God elevated man to be king of the earth, and they were to multiply and fill the earth. And look at this word. They were to subdue the earth and have dominion over it. Now, that word subdue is a very powerful word. Do you know what the word means? The word actually means that man was to tread down, conquer, subjugate, and bring the earth under his subjection. I mean, that is raw power and control. Look at what was under man's control, lest we forget. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. That was the scope of man's dominion, and that was God's order of things. Man had a kingdom before he was made king. He had jurisdiction at his coronation. I mean, you cannot be a king without a domain. You cannot be a king without having a jurisdiction over which you rule. So Adam was to be a vice regent under God, who is the supreme one. Now, just an observation. Man was never to have dominion over man or over people. If that is happening today, then that is someone else's agenda, not God's agenda. Man was to control nature. Man was to control birds and fishes and animals and plants. That was man's jurisdiction. That was man's domain. But there's something else I want to mention that I would call a twist. There is a word that I've heard others twist to suggest something different from the truth. The word is replenish. We just read it where God gave them the order to multiply and replenish the earth. They were to be fruitful, they were to multiply and replenish the earth. Now the word replenish in the original language simply means to fill. So God said you are to be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. But in today's language, the English meaning of the word is to refill. So some have suggested that there was a civilization before Adam and that God was creating a new species afterwards. And obviously that idea seems to originate from this word replenish, which they say means to refill. I mean, using today's understanding of the word, means to refill or to fill again. Just so that I'm clear in what I'm saying, folks, there is not even a hint of such things recorded. Others are suggesting that since Cain took a wife from the land of Nod, there were other civilizations. But there's no support for such claim, as the Bible never said he took a wife from the land of Nod, but that he dwelt in the land of Nod east of Eden. That is plainly what the scripture says. I mean, the scripture said he knew his wife and she conceived and bare a son, meaning he had to have had his wife with him when he went to the land of Nod. Lastly, on that point, just some observational questions. How long were they living in the garden? How long were they living together before Cain killed Abel? How long were they there? How many children did Adam and Eve have by then? Because remember, the word says that Adam lived 130 years and had Seth, and that after he had Seth, he lived another 800 years and had sons and daughters. So my question, how long did this happen and how many children did they have? Well, I'll tell you something. I don't give much credence to secular history, especially as it relates to history that is so far back. I mean, going back all the way back to the beginning. But just a point of interest, the historian Josephus actually mentions that Adam had, listen to this now, 33 sons and 23 daughters. That's what secular history says, making a total of 56 children, that Adam actually had 56 children. Now, it is true that history is generated, or history is passed down to generations that follows. Okay, so if there's a clear lineage that goes all the way back to Adam, and there was no break. In other words, even when the world was destroyed, when the earth was destroyed, and eight people were saved. So those eight would still have history of what happened before, and the history that they were told and taught and so on. I guess it was just passed on by word of mouth. So it is clear that the sons of Adam would have had to marry their sisters, because only the sisters and mother were the only women that were alive. And it is very clear that that Cain had a wife when he moved to the land of Nod. It was not that Nod was a different population. Where, I mean, it amazes me that you know, I guess evolution is probably the core reason for people coming up with these suggestions and ideas, right? But it's not. If God started a creation from nothing, it means nothing existed, because the earth was without form and it was void. That's what it says in there in the beginning. Darkness was on the face of the deep. It was covered with water. So how could a population have existed before? But see, we don't think. We just accept what is said because I guess the scholars who says it are respected. But that's not a good reason to accept these things. Anyway, here we come to a very sad reality. Now, something happened that thwarted the plan of God for man. Something that man himself did to change the whole trajectory of his life and future. Man, as a king, a ruler, one who had dominion, actually abdicated his authority and gave it to another. And in so doing, renounced and relinquished his position as ruler and king, and himself became a servant to another master. That one move changed Adam, separated him from God, and his entire progeny was born in a state of sin, which is separation from God, making him a slave to self, which is the root of the carnal nature, and thus he became himself carnal, fleshly. Now, since God possesses eternal, everlasting life, anyone connected to God or connected to God's life can never die. But Adam, being separated from God, has now introduced death to his race as the destiny of all mankind. Man, who was created to reign, rule, and govern, as we have seen, was now a slave to his self-nature, a slave to his environment. Instead of conquering, he is being conquered and dominated by the creation he was to govern. Let me take the time to introduce another important concept here, and that is legality. The only legitimate ones on earth are those with a body, whether they be of fishes, birds, or animals. Also those with a body and spirit, as referring to man, to humans. No other being or entity are legal on earth. For Satan or any spirit to interact with man, he must possess someone or something that is legal here. And for that reason, Satan possessed a serpent to get to Eve, to get to the place of interaction with man. For that reason, God had to produce a human body born from a woman for the spirit of his son to enter, so he could legally come to earth and redeem Adam's fallen race. Even today, at this moment, as we speak, there are many demons on the earth, but they are in people's bodies, because this is the only legal way for demons and devils to be on the earth. It's true, God's creation, the legal ones here. The result of acquiescing to a created being caused Adam to relinquish his place as monarch and king to that over which he had power. He is now ruled by his senses instead of by his spirit, that was connected to the spirit of the living God, but now was separated. Life for him and his progeny was to do that which feels, sounds, looks, smells, and tastes good to his body and mentally, instead of what is intrinsically good for and feeds his spirit, which is his reality. He became a creature ruled by his senses instead of one ruled by his spirit. And what is the result? The result is emotions flare, passions excite, feelings rule. I mean, if you're angry, you can hurt and kill because that satisfies the emotion. So Cain killed Abel because he was angry. Wow, war, strife, commotion was the order of the day. Sensuality ruled, sex, lust, drunkenness and debauchery was the norm of the day. And the motto was, if it feels good, do it. The moral standards were lowered and God was lost sight of as the generations multiplied. People began spreading out on the earth fast as millions of lives were multiplied, and people became corrupted to the level of base creatures. The records actually shows, and God saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Life on earth was nothing like God intended when he made his man, and his heart was hurt to see the result of what his beloved man became when he was separated from him. Finally, I want to address the issues of Genesis chapter 6. The ideas given there to me are very clear. In fact, let me start by saying there is a principle that governs the creation that is absolutely unchangeable. That principle is very simple, and it is this: each produces after its kind. Now, go back, folks, and read the creation story, and it spells it out over and over again. That principle is true in every species of creation. It is true in humans, it is true in birds, in fishes, in animals, and it is true in the plants. All right, so let's go to the record and see what is written there in Genesis chapter 6. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. All right, so here's my question. Who were the sons of God? Of course, there are many different ideas given that these sons of God were different kinds of people. They say that the sons of God were angels. The sons of God were from the lineage of Seth, or the sons of God were the rulers or the kings of the earth then. But does that make sense? In fact, let's keep in mind that the first reference to the sons of God is right here. This is the very first reference to the sons of God. Also, there was no reference to angels being called sons of God up to this point. In fact, only 2 books of the Old Testament uses the phraseology, the sons of God. And they are Genesis, which has 2 references, and the book of Job, which has 3 references. Whoever said that sons of God in the book of Job referred to angels? Where did that come from? Who said that? What is their proof? Seems to me, and if you look at it yourself, you can see as well, seems to me that these sons of God were of other worlds. And the reason being that Satan came as earth's representative. So it would seem to me it was beings or creation from other worlds that came together for a meeting with God. And so because Adam abdicated his authority as being king, he who was to be present at that meeting was not, and Satan was there. So back to the issue, because it is commonly believed and accepted that the sons of God are fallen angels, and they came and mated with the beautiful woman. Now stop for a moment and think. Don't just accept something because it sounds good or because some big name scholar said it. Think about it. Think about what you're reading or what you're hearing. Can a woman mate with a dog and produce an offspring? All right, why not? It's simple, because we stated at the beginning there is a law that governs nature. And what is that law? Each produces after its kind. A woman and a dog are not of the same kind. And in the same way, a horse cannot reproduce with a cow or a pig reproduce with a goat, because they are not of the same kind. Does that make sense? I mean, remember, it is the law of nature. So who are angels? I mean, who are angels? Are angels male or female, whether they be fallen or unfallen? Are angels male or female? I mean, it doesn't, the word says that they are spirit beings and are of a different kind. I mean, and if they are spirit beings, as Hebrews 1 talks about, they being ministering spirits, are they not of a different kind than man? How then do we twist the law of nature to have fallen angels mating with women? How do we do that? Upon what basis do we do that? See? And I'm simply saying, I mean, things are straightforward until we begin to twist them with our own ideas. If you just look at the word, it is just clear. In fact, let's continue with the narratives. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bear children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Now, you just read that along with me. The record did not say that the sons of God and the daughters of men produced giants. It did not say that. It spoke about something that was factual in those days. There were giants in those days. And also, which means, in addition to that fact, something else happened. I mean, the corruption of evil started spreading as those who were obedient to God started getting involved with those who were not. And evil began spreading. And as this intermarriage of the lineage of God happened, it began began to produce children who became heroes and legendary figures of ancient times. They were the mighty heroes of old, the famous men of old. Okay? But something to consider. And I want you to consider this. Consider that if the sons of God represented fallen angels, I have a question. Why are they not still reproducing with the women of today? Are the women of today not beautiful enough for them? I mean, what would have caused it to stop? Why are they not still producing giants today, if that was the case? Well, it goes to show, folks, that we have not read carefully, and we have accepted ideas and thoughts that were not true. All right. In concluding this part one, which is, we're just kind of just setting up a base and looking at the things that we are about to explore. And as we do this, in closing, I want us to see a glimpse of what separation from God produces. Because as we look at this idea of how man being separated from God became so evil and so corrupt, did that stop? Isn't the same thing true today? That there's always been a continuation of this kind of living. I guess it went into secret, right? But now we see this coming out in public, that the baser animal nature is ruling the world today, is ruling people today. We see it on social media, spreading like wildfire and corrupting the young people, the children. And when you look at this, folks, what a future. What future are we producing? When you look at what is going on, it can only lead to degradation. And as the word says, as it was in the days of Noah, when this happened, even so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. What happened in the days of Noah, folks, is the same things we're seeing happening here, where people became depraved. Look at what the word says, that the very thoughts of his heart was evil continually. Are we seeing anything different? Look around you and you see how this godless world and these evil leaders are wiping out the population to fit their evil agendas. I mean, in the word of a secular person, only a revival of godliness, righteousness, and holiness can fix our present world. So, will you be a part of this fixing? I mean, will you be the change that the world needs? I mean, these are questions that are important and needs to be answered. Will you be the example of a changed life and a changed heart? So those who see and recognize that things can be different will seek after this difference in their own lives. These are questions that they must be answered. What will be your answer? What is your answer? That is really what it comes down to. All right, friends. Thank you for spending this short time with me today. I leave it there for today. So until next time, see you in part 2. Much grace and blessings.